The station is quieter than you expected. Not empty, just settled. Cold air waits for you as you step onto the platform, clean and still. It smells faintly of metal and snow, the kind of cold that doesn't rush you, only lets you know it's there. Overhead lights glow softly, spaced far enough apart to leave room for shadow in between. Nothing flickers. Nothing hums too loudly. Snow falls in thin, patient flakes. Not enough to demand attention, just enough to slow everything down. It's late. Late enough that the day has already loosened its grip. Late enough that no one expects much of anything from you anymore. The platform stretches out in both directions, longer than it needs to be tonight. A few benches sit empty, dusted lightly with snow, as if they've already decided they're done being used. You stand where you are for a moment, letting your breath settle in through your nose, out slower than before. The sound of your breathing fades easily into the night. Somewhere down the track, a distant light rests in place, steady and unhurried. The train isn't rushing in. It's on its way, but there's time. A sign near the edge of the platform lists destinations you don't need to read closely. You already know where you're going tonight. Or maybe you don't exactly. But the train does. That feels like enough. A speaker crackles softly overhead, then goes quiet again. No announcement yet, no instructions. You're allowed to just stand here. Snow gathers along the rails, outlining the path the train will take without insisting you follow it yet. Everything feels prepared, but unpressured. There are a few other people scattered across the platform, far enough away to keep their own quiet, close enough to remind you that you're not alone out here. No one is talking. No one seems interested in starting. Coats are zipped, hands tucked into pockets, faces turned toward the tracks, or the snow, or nowhere in particular. You notice how easy it is to keep your space. A clock mounted high above the platform ticks forward, its movement barely noticeable unless you're looking for it. Time doesn't feel important right now. It's moving on its own. Somewhere beyond the station, a town has already begun to dim for the night. Windows going dark, streets emptying, lights lowering their voices. Christmas Eve sits quietly in the background, not announcing itself, just present. A wreath hangs near the station entrance, slightly crooked, its green muted by the cold. A string of small white lights stays on, steady and uncomplicated. Nothing sparkles too much. Nothing asks you to feel a certain way. You shift your weight from one foot to the other. The ground feels solid beneath you, reliable, exactly where it's supposed to be. Your shoulders drop a little without being told. This is the space before movement, before deciding where to sit, before the doors open. And there's a calm in that. You don't need to review the day. You don't need to prepare for what comes next. The night has already created a boundary around this moment, holding everything else at a comfortable distance. Snow continues to fall. Lights remain low. The tracks wait patiently, and you stand there, unhurried, with nothing pulling at you from behind, and nothing rushing you forward yet. Just the quiet platform, just the cold air, just the sense that, for now, you're exactly where you need to be. The night holds for a moment longer, then shifts, not suddenly, just enough for you to notice. A low sound reaches the platform from far down the track. Not loud, not urgent. Metal moving through cold air. A presence approaching without haste. The distant light grows slightly brighter, then steadies again. The train is close now, but it doesn't rush you. Snow keeps falling the same way it always has. Lights stay where they are. Nothing about the night feels interrupted. You feel the subtle change before anything else happens. A quiet readiness settling in. The sense that the waiting has done its work. The platform seems to draw itself into focus. Edges clearer, distances shorter. Somewhere nearby, a door unlocks with a muted sound. A signal meant for no one in particular. You take one more slow breath. Cold in, calm out. This is the moment before movement, and it arrives gently. The train glides into the station with a softness that feels intentional. Steel slowing, wheels easing against the rails. It doesn't announce itself. It simply arrives. Windows pass by in a quiet line, each one lit just enough to suggest warmth inside. Reflections of snow and platform lights slide across the glass, then drift away. The train comes to rest with a final, unremarkable sound. Nothing jolts. Nothing calls attention to itself. Doors open one by one, releasing small pockets of warmth into the cold air. The contrast is noticeable, but not sharp. A few people step off, their movements unhurried, coats pulled close, heads lowered slightly against the cold. They pass by without meeting your eyes. You appreciate that. You wait where you are, letting the small flow of movement finish. There's no reason to hurry. When it's your turn, you step forward easily. Boots meeting metal, the ground changing beneath you. Inside, the air is warmer, quieter than you expected. Sounds soften immediately, absorbed by carpet and fabric and distance. The door closes behind you with a gentle seal. The platform slips away, held now behind glass and memory. The aisle stretches ahead, longer than it needs to be tonight. Rows of seats rest in pairs, most of them empty. Lights overhead glow low, intentionally dim. You pause just inside, taking in the space without deciding anything yet. There's room here, actual room, and the kind that doesn't need to be measured. You notice how nothing pulls you forward. No voices calling out, no eyes waiting. A conductor stands farther down the car, quiet and still, focused on something that doesn't involve you. That feels right. You begin to move down the aisle at your own pace. Steps slow, unremarkable. Some seats sit by the window, untouched, snow light sliding faintly across the glass beside them. Others face inward, their small lamps already dimmed. You don't choose yet. You let yourself pass a few rows, noticing how each space feels slightly different. Closer, farther, more open. There's no wrong answer here, only preference. Your hand brushes the top of a seat as you walk, grounding and real. The fabric is warm from earlier use, holding the memory of heat without clinging to it. You continue on, unhurried, aware that you're allowed to take the time you need. This is your space to claim quietly, your place to sit without explanation, and the train waits with you, patient and steady, ready to carry you forward once you decide where to rest. You slow your steps without meaning to, not because you're tired, because there's no reason to move faster. The train hums softly beneath your feet, a low, steady sound that feels more like reassurance than motion. It doesn't ask for attention. It simply stays. A seat by the window catches your eye, not for any particular reason. It just feels quiet. The window beside it is dark now, reflecting only faint shapes from inside the car. Your own outline appears briefly in the glass, then blends back into shadow. You turn slightly and settle into the seat. The movement is small, unremarkable. The cushion gives just enough to support you, firm and familiar. The armrest is cool beneath your hand, smooth from years of quiet use. You let your coat stay on. There's warmth here, but no rush to adjust. No need to get comfortable all at once. Across the aisle, a few seats remain empty. Their small reading lights already off. They feel untouched, available but not asking. You notice how easy it is to keep a little space around yourself. The seat beside you stays empty. The aisle remains clear. No one pauses near you. No one asks if the spot is taken. The train seems to understand the hour. Your bag rests at your feet, where you can feel its weight through your boots. Grounding, exactly where it belongs. You shift slightly, finding a position that feels balanced. Not perfect, just right enough. Outside the window, snow drifts past in soft streaks as the train begins to move again. The motion is gentle, almost unnoticeable at first. Lights on the platform slide backward, slowly, then disappear altogether. You don't watch them go. There's nothing you need to hold on to out there. Inside, the car settles into its rhythm. A quiet sway, a steady glide. You rest one hand on your lap, the other along the armrest. Your shoulders ease down another inch. This seat feels like a boundary you don't have to defend. It exists without explanation, held in place by nothing more than choice. You don't need to make conversation. You don't need to share the space unless you want to. The window remains dark, reflecting only the soft glow of overhead lights and the suggestion of movement beyond the glass. Your breathing slows naturally, matching the train's pace. In, out. There's a calm in knowing where you are, in having chosen a place to rest for a while. The train continues forward, carrying you gently into the night. And here, in this seat, there's nothing else you need to do. The train doesn't hurry. It gathers itself slowly, as if making sure everything is ready before moving on. There's a subtle shift beneath you, a gentle pull, Nothing sharp enough to interrupt the quiet you've found. The hum deepens just slightly, settling into a lower, steadier tone. A sound that stays in the background, content to do its work without being noticed. Outside, darkness presses softly against the glass. Snow continues to fall, though you can no longer tell where the platform ends and the open night begins. The sense of being between places grows clearer now, no longer waiting, not yet arriving. The train carries that in-between space easily. Motion becomes something you feel more than see. The window shows only hints of the world outside. A distant light passing. A shadow where a building might have been. Everything moves past at a pace that doesn't ask you to follow. The car rocks gently, side to side, just enough to remind you that you're being carried. The movement is predictable, reliable. Your body responds without instruction. Muscles soften, breathing settles. The seat supports you steadily as the train finds its rhythm. Not fast, not slow, just consistent. Overhead lights remain dim, casting a soft, even glow across the aisle. Nothing flickers, nothing changes. You notice how the motion smooths your thoughts. Edges blur, details loosen. There's no need to track distance or time now. The train is doing that for you. Outside, snow streaks faintly across the window, each flake catching light for only a moment before disappearing. They don't demand to be remembered. Inside, the quiet deepens. The steady sound of the train becomes a kind of backdrop, a low continuous presence that allows everything else to fade. You remain where you are, held gently in place as the night opens wider around you and the train continues forward, unhurried, carrying you along without effort. The movement settles into something familiar, not because you've taken this route before, but because your body knows what to do with steady motion. The train sways gently, side to side, a rhythm slow enough to feel, soft enough to trust. You notice how the sound of the rails repeats without variation. A low pattern, even, predictable. It doesn't tell a story. It doesn't change its mind. Outside the window, lights appear and disappear without warning. A house set back from the tracks. A crossing signal far in the distance. They pass before you can decide what they are. And that feels right. Your reflection returns briefly in the glass, layered over the dark. Not clear, not important. You don't study it. The window holds both movement and stillness at the same time. The world slides past. You remain exactly where you are. Inside the car, everything seems to soften. The fabric of the seat, the quiet air, the dim glow resting overhead. Even small sounds lose their edges. A distant footstep, a door farther down the car, closing with care. Nothing carries far enough to interrupt you. Your breathing continues at its own pace. In, out. Each breath feels less connected to thought now, more connected to the simple fact of being here. The train doesn't ask where you're going. It doesn't ask how long you plan to stay awake. It just continues forward, holding its line through the dark. Snow keeps pace outside, blurring into thin lines of white. You don't follow them with your eyes for long. Your focus drifts inward, not toward memory or planning, just toward the quiet sensation of movement. There's a comfort in knowing that nothing is required of you in this moment. No choices, no responses. The train carries the responsibility of motion. You're free to remain still. And as the night deepens around the tracks, that steady rhythm continues, unchanged, reliable, allowing everything else to fade just a little farther into the background. The world outside thins out even more. Buildings give way to open stretches of dark, where the snow has nothing to land on but space. The window no longer offers details, only movement, only the suggestion of distance passing. You let your eyes rest there without focusing. Light, dark, light again. The train continues its steady glide, each motion smoothing the one before it. Inside, the car feels smaller now, not confined, just contained, as if the night has drawn a gentle boundary around this space and decided nothing else needs to enter. The sound of the rails becomes softer, more uniform, a continuous line rather than separate moments. You stop noticing where one sound ends and the next begins. Your body responds in kind. Your jaw loosens slightly. Your shoulders settle further into the seat. Your hands rest where they are without adjusting. Breath moves in and out with less effort, less thought. Outside, the snow appears slower somehow, as if the night itself has reduced its pace to match the train. Occasionally, a distant light rests on the horizon, steady and far away, then slips quietly out of view. You don't feel the need to follow it. Time stretches, but gently. It doesn't pull. It doesn't press. The sense of being carried grows clearer now. Not hurried, not directed, just held in motion. The seat beneath you remains solid and unchanged, a constant point while everything else drifts past. You notice how easy it is to stay within this small, chosen space, how nothing intrudes, how nothing asks for access. The train respects that. It keeps moving forward, keeping its distance from the stillness you've settled into. And as the night continues to open around the tracks, you remain quietly contained within this moment, steady, unbothered, carried gently through the dark, with no need to reach beyond where you already are. The rhythm continues for a while longer, steady and unchanged, Then, almost without notice, something shifts, not in the movement of the train, but in your awareness of the space around you. The quiet you've been resting in begins to take on a shape. You notice the distance between seats, the way the aisle stays open, how sound seems to stop before it reaches you. Nothing has changed, and yet it feels more defined, as if the night has gently drawn lines where they belong. There's a comfort in how contained everything feels now. The seat you chose holds its place without effort. The space beside you remains empty, undisturbed. You don't feel watched. You don't feel expected to respond to anything. A presence exists somewhere farther down the car. You're aware of it only because the train isn't completely empty, but it stays distant, respectful. You appreciate that. Your gaze rests on the dark window, then drifts back inside. No one meets your eyes. No one tries to. This is the kind of quiet that doesn't need defending. You notice how your body understands this without instruction. Your breathing stays slow. Your posture remains easy. You don't lean away. You don't brace. There's nothing to protect here. The hum of the train continues, creating a soft boundary of sound that holds everything else at bay. Even if someone were to speak, the night would soften it before it reached you. That thought passes without weight. You remain in your seat, aware of the simple truth of it. You're allowed to be here without engaging, allowed to keep your attention where it feels safest. Your hands stay relaxed. Your shoulders remain low. The train moves on, and within it, your space stays intact, quiet, unclaimed by anyone else, exactly the size you need it to be. You rest there, settled into a calm that doesn't require permission. As the night continues forward around you, leaving you undisturbed inside your own gentle boundary. The train continues on without changing its pace. The car remains dim, settled into the same low light. Most seats stay empty. Nothing has shifted your sense of space. Then, farther down the aisle, there's a small movement. Someone stands briefly. A quiet adjustment. A coat pulled closer. You notice it only because the rest of the car is so still. They move slowly, careful not to disturb the night. Their steps are soft, absorbed by carpet before they can travel far. As they pass your row, their gaze lifts for just a moment, not searching, not lingering. Their voice comes quietly, almost unsure it needs to be heard. Excuse me? Just that. Nothing more. You shift your legs slightly, creating space without thinking about it. The movement is easy, natural. They pass by without stopping. No conversation follows. No explanation is required. The boundary holds. The sound of there. The moment passes as quietly as it arrived. The aisle settles back into stillness. Footsteps fade. The space around you remains unchanged. The train doesn't respond to the interaction at all. Its rhythm stays steady, its pace unbothered. You return your attention to the window without effort. Darkness presses gently against the glass again, familiar and soft. It feels easier now to let the outside world drift by. The first station arrives without announcement. A cluster of lights appears ahead, small and contained, resting in the dark like something set down carefully. The train slows just enough for you to notice. Snow gathers along the platform, outlining edges that don't need to be sharp. A sign flashes past, the name unreadable, unless you were trying. You aren't. The train eases through without stopping. Lights slide along the window, then fall away behind you. The station disappears as quietly as it arrived. You notice how little it asks of you. No decision, no attention beyond a brief glance. Another stretch of darkness follows, longer this time. The night opens again, wide, uninterrupted, and the train returns to its steady motion. Minutes pass without marking themselves. Then another station emerges. This one is smaller, fewer lights. A single shelter near the platform, empty and still. The train slows again, just slightly, enough to acknowledge the place, not enough to belong to it. You catch a glimpse of benches dusted with snow, a clock glowing faintly, a row of windows already dark. Then it's gone. You feel no pull to remember the name, no reason to imagine what happens there. The stations pass like thoughts that don't need to be followed, present for a moment, then released. Inside the car, nothing changes. Lights stay low. Seats remain quiet. Your body continues to rest easily in the space you chose. Each station slips by, and with every one, the sense of distance grows. Not between places, but between you and anything that might demand your attention. The train moves on through the night, and you move with it, unattached, undisturbed, allowing each place to appear and fade without asking anything of you at all. The stations continue to appear at gentle intervals, not evenly spaced, not predictable. They arrive when they arrive. Sometimes it's only a pair of lights set back from the tracks, a name printed on a sign you don't try to read, a platform that feels barely used. Other times, there's a little more to see. A parking lot with a few cars resting under snow. A small building with one window still lit, warm against the dark. The train acknowledges each place in the same way, a slight easing of speed, a quiet glide through. It never lingers. You begin to notice how each station feels complete without you. as if your presence isn't required to make it real. That feels reassuring. Outside, the snow reflects the station lights briefly, then returns to shadow. Inside, the car remains unchanged. Your seat stays steady beneath you. The air stays calm. The space you claimed continues to hold. You stop wondering how many stations there have been. The numbers don't matter anymore. Each one passes like a breath. In, out. There's a sense now that the train is moving farther from the noise of the day. Not in distance, exactly. In relevance. What once felt close begins to feel less necessary to carry. The stations thin out again, leaving longer stretches of dark between them. Time stretches with them, losing its edges. You let your eyes rest, half-focused, as the window offers less and less detail, just motion, just light and dark. The train hums on, consistent and unremarkable, and within that steady movement, you feel yourself drifting a little farther into the quiet, not away from anything, just deeper into the calm of being carried forward, as each station slips gently behind you and out of reach. The spaces between stations grow longer now. Dark stretches of track pass without interruption, as if the night has decided to keep more to itself. When the next station appears, it feels farther away somehow, smaller, quieter. Only a few lights stand watch along the platform, their glow softened by falling snow. The train slows just enough to acknowledge the place, then continues on. You notice how familiar that feels. Not the station itself, but the way it passes without leaving an impression. You don't try to imagine who might live nearby. You don't picture arriving there. The thought doesn't complete itself. Another station follows, even more modest than the last. A narrow platform, one no movement. It looks like a place that has already gone to sleep. The train moves through gently, respectful of the stillness. Lights slide across the window. Pause for half a breath, then fade behind you. You no longer track where you are on the route. The sense of progress has softened into something less defined. There's just the steady forward motion and the knowledge that places continue to exist without you needing to name them. Your reflection drifts faintly across the glass again, barely visible, layered over snow and darkness. You don't hold on to it. The car remains quiet, as if everyone inside has reached the same understanding. Nothing needs to be marked. Nothing needs to be remembered. Stations now feel less like destinations and more like punctuation. Brief pauses in the sentence of the night. They appear, then let the story continue. The train hums on, unbroken, and the night stretches wider around the tracks. Somewhere ahead, another stop waits, but it doesn't announce itself yet. For now, there is only motion, only darkness softened by snow, and the calm certainty that you are being carried forward without needing to know exactly where each place falls along the way. The train continues on, steady and unremarkable, as if nothing is meant to happen. Then, gradually, something feels different. Not in the sound, not in the motion, in the spacing. The darkness outside seems to gather itself a little closer, holding longer between points of light. You don't question it. You simply notice. Ahead, a faint glow rests farther down the track than the others did. It doesn't approach quickly. It doesn't retreat. It waits. The train begins to slow. Not the familiar easing you've grown used to, but something quieter, more deliberate. Outside the window, a platform takes shape through the snow, smaller than the others, lower to the ground. Only a few lights remain on, spaced unevenly, as if no one bothered to align them carefully. The sign comes into view, then passes too slowly to ignore, but too softly lit to read. You don't try. The platform looks unfinished somehow, or maybe finished long ago. There are no cars waiting nearby, no movement beneath the shelter, just snow resting where it has chosen to land. The train slows further, nearly stopping, though not completely. The doors stay closed. Inside the car, nothing changes. No one stands. No one reaches for a bag. It feels as though this stop isn't meant for you or anyone else inside. The lights outside reflect briefly across the glass, lingering longer than they should. You notice how the train holds here for a moment, longer than at the other station. Not paused, just considering. The hum beneath you remains steady, but quieter now, as if the train itself is listening. Then, just as gently, the motion returns. The platform begins to slide backward, slowly at first, then more surely. Lights drift past the window, one by one, until there's nothing left but snow and dark again. The train never stopped. It simply passed through something that didn't ask to be named. And as the night closes back in around the tracks, the sense of that small, quiet stop lingers, not as a question, but as a soft presence resting somewhere in the background, unexplained and content to remain that way. The train settles back into its rhythm. The hum deepens again, steady, familiar, as if nothing unusual has happened. And yet, the night feels slightly changed. Not louder, not brighter, just aware. Snow continues to fall outside the window, but your attention drifts back to the space the train passed through. Not the details, not the platform itself, only the feeling of it. The way the lights lingered a moment longer, the way the train slowed without stopping, the way no one moved. You don't try to understand it. Some places don't ask for meaning. They exist briefly, then return to where they belong, Still, the thought rests quietly beside you. The next stretch of track feels longer, darker. Lights are fewer now, appearing only occasionally, farther apart than before. When another station finally emerges, it feels more ordinary, brighter, more complete. The train slows in the usual way this time, then moves on without hesitation. You notice the difference immediately. This one leaves no impression. It passes, and the night closes easily behind it. But the earlier stop remains, not in your thoughts exactly, more like a soft echo. You realize how little it asks of you. No curiosity to solve, no story to finish. It doesn't pull you forward or draw you back. It simply exists as something the train acknowledged, then released. The window reflects only darkness again, your own outline barely visible, then gone. Inside the car, everything stays calm. Seats remain still. Air remains quiet. The mystery doesn't grow. It doesn't deepen. It settles like a thought that arrives, is noticed, and then allowed to rest. The train continues forward, snow brushing past the glass, the night wide and unbroken again. And somewhere behind you now, that small stop remains exactly where it is, unnamed, unexplained, and perfectly content to stay that way as the distance between you and it slowly, gently increases. The memory of the stop fades on its own, not erased, just set gently behind you. The train continues forward, steady again, as if it has returned to familiar ground. Snow brushes the window in soft, uneven lines. Lights appear less often now, and when they do, they stay farther away. There's a sense that the night is opening into something broader, less interrupted. You don't measure the distance. You don't wonder how long it's been. The motion carries its own timing. Gradually, the movement begins to change. So subtly at first that you feel it before you notice it. The sway becomes smaller, the rhythm less pronounced. The train is still moving, but with a quieter intention. Outside, the darkness shifts in texture, not deeper, more shaped. A faint glow rests ahead, low on the horizon, steady rather than scattered. The train eases into a gentler pace, not slowing to stop, but preparing. Inside the car, the quiet deepens further. Even the hum beneath you lowers, as if the train is drawing a careful breath. Your body responds immediately. Breathing slows another fraction. Muscles soften further into the seat. There's no anticipation in this moment, no alertness, only the sense of approaching something without needing to arrive yet. The window offers slightly clearer shapes now. A line of trees, a fence running parallel to the tracks. They pass slowly, unhurried, as if the night itself has decided to ease the pace. You remain still, supported by the seat, held within the calm boundary you chose earlier. The train continues its gentle deceleration, carrying you forward without announcement, as the sense of arrival begins to form, not as a destination, but as a soft shift in the air, quietly unfolding ahead. The train moves differently now. Not enough to draw attention, but enough that your body notices before your thoughts do. The gentle sway shortens. The forward pull softens. Everything feels slightly closer together, as if the night is narrowing its focus. Outside the window, shapes become easier to recognize. Tree lines appear, then dissolve. A fence follows the tracks for a while, then drifts away. Snow gathers along the ground in quieter patterns here. Less wind, less motion. The train continues at this slower pace, not stopping, just easing. Inside the car, nothing changes outwardly. Lights remain dim. Seats remain still. But the atmosphere feels heavier in a comforting way, as if the air itself has decided to to settle. You notice how your breathing matches the new rhythm without effort. In, out. Longer now. Your shoulders sink further into the seat, supported fully, with no need to adjust. There's a sense that the journey is folding inward, not ending, just becoming simpler. The hum beneath you is softer, lower, almost distant. It feels less like movement and more like being guided gently into place. Outside, a few lights appear again, not scattered, but spaced with intention. Streetlights, maybe. Windows set back from the tracks. They pass slowly enough to be noticed, but not long enough to invite thought. You don't follow them. The train continues to ease forward, each moment quieter than the last. There's no announcement, no signal that anything is about to happen. Only the calm certainty that you're nearing something familiar, even if you can't yet say what it is. And as the night closes in around the tracks, the train carries you onward at this gentler pace, steady, contained, and ready to arrive without ever needing to hurry. The train continues to ease forward, as if it has learned how to move more quietly. The sound beneath you thins out, no longer a constant presence, just a soft undercurrent. Outside, the night feels closer now, not pressing in, just nearer. Lights appear with more intention. A row of street lamps following a road. A few windows set back, glowing warmly against the snow. They don't rush past anymore. They drift. The train's motion becomes almost floating, each moment stretching gently into the next. You notice how little effort it takes to remain still. Your body feels heavier in a pleasant way, anchored and supported. Breathing slows again, not guided, just happening. In, out. The car remains quiet, as if everyone inside has reached the same understanding. This is not a moment for conversation, not a moment for movement, just a gradual settling. Outside, shapes repeat themselves. Fences, trees, low buildings, each one passing with the same soft consistency. Nothing surprises you now. The train glides on, careful and unhurried, as though arrival is something to approach gently without disturbance. You feel the journey beginning to gather itself, not into an ending, but into a simpler form. Less motion, less sound, less to notice. The seat beneath you remains steady and familiar, a quiet constant as everything else slows. There's no sense of urgency here, no need to prepare. The train knows where it's going, and for now, that's enough. As the night grows calmer around the tracks, you remain exactly where you are, settled, contained, and carried softly forward. As the final stretch of the journey continues at its own gentle pace. The slowing continues until it becomes almost imperceptible, not stopped, just eased into something gentler. The train feels smaller now, as if it has drawn closer to itself, gathering the last stretch of the journey with care. Outside, the lights no longer drift past. They begin to hold their places. A few glow steadily in the distance, waiting rather than passing. The sense of arrival doesn't announce itself. It settles quietly, like snow finding the ground. The train comes to rest without ceremony. No jolt, no sharp sound, just the soft release of motion. For a moment, nothing happens at all. The hum beneath you fades into stillness, leaving a quiet so complete it feels intentional. Outside the window, the town rests in place. Low buildings, warm windows, street lights casting small circles of light onto snow-covered ground. Everything looks as though it has already gone to sleep. The doors remain closed for a beat longer, as if allowing the quiet to finish settling. Then, with a gentle sound, they open. Cold air moves in slowly, clean and calm, carrying the faint scent of snow and night. The platform is smaller than the one you left behind, closer to the tracks, less polished. A simple shelter stands a short distance away, its roof edged with snow. A bench rests beneath it, empty. No one is waiting. You stand when you're ready, the movement unhurried, your feet finding the floor easily. The train remains still behind you, patient, as if it knows there's no rush. Stepping onto the platform feels familiar in a way you can't quite explain. Not because you've been here before, but because the town holds the same quiet you've been carrying with you. Lights glow softly along the street beyond the station, spaced comfortably apart. Nothing blinks. Nothing calls out. Snow continues to fall, slower now, as if it too has decided to settle in. You pause for a moment on the platform, letting the stillness meet you. This is not a place that asks questions, not a place that expects anything. It simply waits. And as you stand there, wrapped in the calm of arrival, the night feels wide and welcoming, ready to hold you gently as the journey shifts from motion into quiet presence. The train stays where it is, doors open, lights low. It doesn't feel like it's waiting on you. It feels like it's finished its part. You step a little farther onto the platform, boots pressing softly into the thin layer of snow. The sound is muted, as if the town absorbs it before it can travel. Behind you, the train breathes once more, a low sound, then settles again. Ahead, the street stretches quietly away from the station. A single road, a gentle curve, no traffic. Street lights cast warm circles onto the snow, each one separate, each one complete on its own. You notice a few houses set back from the road, their windows glowing faintly, curtains drawn. It feels late enough that no one expects visitors. Late enough that everything has found its place for the night. There's a sense of familiarity here, though you don't search for the reason. The quiet feels like the kind you've known before. The kind that settles in small towns when the day has finished speaking. Snow rests along fences and rooftops, undisturbed, unmarked. A clock near the station entrance glows softly, its hands moving without sound. Time continues, but gently. You stand for another moment, letting the cold air touch your face, clear and steady. Nothing presses in on you here. No expectations, no need to decide what comes next. The town doesn't lean toward you. It leaves space. The train remains behind you now, quiet and still, already beginning to feel distant. What's ahead doesn't call out. It simply exists. And as you turn slightly toward the street, the calm you carried through the journey meets the calm waiting here, fitting together easily, without effort, as the night holds the town and prepares to let you move through it at your own unhurried pace. The stillness lingers for a moment longer. Nothing urges you forward. Nothing pulls you back. The town remains quiet around you, as if giving you time to decide when movement feels right. The train stays behind, settled and complete, its role finished without needing acknowledgement. Ahead, the road waits, not expectant, just open. You begin to walk when it feels natural. One step, then another, boots pressing softly into the snow. The sound is barely there, a muted rhythm that blends easily into the night. Street lights guide the way without insisting. Each one illuminates a small stretch of road, then hands you off to the next. You move through their glow slowly, unhurried, letting the light come to you instead of chasing it. The air feels colder here, clean and steady against your skin. Your breath rises briefly, then disappears. Houses rest quietly along the street, set back just enough to feel private. Porches empty, windows dim. Nothing stirs as you pass. You notice how the town doesn't react to your presence. It doesn't shift. It doesn't watch. It simply allows you through. Your steps fall into an easy pattern, matching the calm you've carried this far. The road curves gently ahead, disappearing from view without revealing what comes next. That feels comforting. You walk on, leaving the station behind you now, the train already fading into memory. Here, in the open quiet of the street, there's nothing to attend to, nothing to solve, just the soft rhythm of walking, the steady glow of lights, and the sense of moving forward without needing to arrive anywhere in particular yet. The night holds you easily as you continue on, step by quiet step, into the calm of the town. The town grows quieter the farther you go. Street lights appear less often now, their glow spaced farther apart, leaving longer stretches of soft darkness between them. Your steps remain steady, but lighter somehow, as if the ground no longer asks you to press down so firmly. Snow continues to fall, fine and patient, settling into places already prepared for it. The sound of walking fades even more, absorbed by snow, by night, by distance. You pass a narrow side street, then another, each one empty, each one resting. Nothing pulls your attention away from the simple act of moving forward. Houses thin out gradually, giving the road more space to breathe. A fence runs alongside the sidewalk for a while, its top lined with snow, then ends without ceremony. You don't mark the moment it disappears. Your breath stays slow and even, rising briefly into the cold air, then dissolving. The rhythm of walking becomes less about steps and more about flow. Forward, pause, forward again. You notice how little you're carrying now. No weight in your hands, no noise in your thoughts. The journey feels complete, even though you're still moving. The town doesn't ask where you're going. It doesn't need to know. It simply allows the path to unfold ahead of you, quiet and unremarkable. You continue on, leaving the station, the train, and the long night behind you. Here, there's only the soft certainty of movement, the calm of a place already asleep, and the feeling of being gently guided home, not to a specific door or address, but to a state of rest that's been waiting for you all along. And as the road stretches quietly ahead, you walk on without effort, carried by the stillness, ready to let the night take over from here. The walking continues for a while longer, then slowly becomes less important. Steps soften. Distance loses its meaning. The town no longer unfolds ahead of you. It simply holds. The night feels complete now, as if nothing more needs to happen. There's no moment that signals an ending, no final turn, no door opening. The road fades gently into stillness, and with it, the sense of moving forward begins to loosen. Your steps slow, then seem to happen on their own, until even that sensation grows faint. Breathing remains quiet, even. The town stays asleep around you, unchanged, unaware. Lights dim in the distance. Snow continues to fall softly without rhythm. Thoughts drift the way the snow does, appearing briefly, then dissolving. Nothing needs your attention now. There's no place left to reach, no space left to protect, only rest. The night settles fully, holding everything in a calm, steady hush. And as the last sense of movement fades away, you're free to let go, to remain here, quiet and supported, as sleep arrives gently on its own time.